turning your Granblue deck from standard to premium.
Take a look at who I am now. I'm stronger than ever. And if you ever doubted me, you should've known better.
So, this is another new series I want to start doing. Essentially, I got a DM, a direct message on Instagram asking, I have this deck in standard and I would love to try premium, but I don't know how. And that actually makes sense. Like, let's say you just started playing, you got yourself a standard deck, you learned the rules, and now you want to spice things up, you want to try some more mechanics. But there's not really much content that teaches you how to make that transition to try it out. So I figured I'd just start doing this for every single clan I have knowledge on to give you a starting deck, a starting point, and turn your deck from a standard deck to a premium deck with hopefully a pretty affordable budget. Now, this is easier for some decks than for others. Regardless, we can just try. Also, let me know what clan I should do this for next in the comments down below. Now, I will say this isn't necessarily the most competitive high-end build. I just give you a very solid list to go off, and then you can start experimenting with it yourself. So the starting deck we go from is the typical standard Granblue deck: 4 Baskirk, 4 Skull Dragon, 1 Flanger, 4 Ruin Shade, 4 Night Mist, 3 Blue Blood, 4 Romario, 4 Cutlass, 3 Night Guer, 3 Norman, 8 crits, 4 draw PGs, 4 heals, and 1 guiding zombie. Now, you don't necessarily have the exact same deck, but generally when you have the typical standard Granblue list, it'll look something like this. Now, one thing you could pick up before starting all of this is 1 or 2 G Trial Deck 8 Vampire Princess of the Nether Hour. This is one of the older trial decks from back in G, and so some local stores are unable to sell them right now, meaning they could be cheap things to pick up. Now, if you can't find them, don't worry, you can find all of these commons very easily, but you know, if you see it lying around, you might as well pick it up, and then you have even more cards to build with. So we start with the grade 3s. We have our 4 Baskirk. They can actually stay. Better yet, if you don't have the budget for Baskirks, let's say you have been trying to make a budget Granblue build and shelving out like $80 to $100 for VRs is too much, you can just run 4 Negro Breach, which is a rare that's worth like 20 cents. I'm sure at locals you can even get it for free from people, and it'll usually do the job just as well, if not better, in some situations. We're mostly looking to get that protect marker, so it doesn't really matter that you have the VR with the fancier skill or not. Another option is also running 4 Nitros grade 3 instead of Baskirk if you're going for that Granblue waifu build, I guess. If you bought that trial deck that I mentioned earlier twice, you even have that card already. However, if you have the Baskirk, just go for the Baskirk. Now, for Skull Dragon, these can just stay. It's a great card in both formats. Then we get to Flanger. Honestly, it's only relevant against geese, so I would say get Mighty Rogue Nightstorm instead. It's like a 5-cent common, don't worry about it, very easy to pick up, you only need 1, it's like a tech. If you want to keep your Flanger instead, that's fine as well. Getting into the grade 2s, you have 4 Ruin Shades, these can stay. Milling is just as good in both formats. Then we have 4 Night Mist. Honestly, these are too heavy counterblast wise, and you will be calling full fields with your strides anyway, so you want to be replacing this card with Pirate Swordsman Columbard. This card is in the Nitros trial deck as a foil and a common, so if you want to be budget, you just pick up the common versions online on TCG Player, Ideal 808, Troll and Toad and so forth, maybe even eBay, or if you got the trial deck, well then you have this card already. Finally, we have the 3 Blue Bloods. This is an on-hit, we don't want to be running something like this, we want to be running Skeleton Cannoneer. This is another common, an amazing common, one of the best cards Granblue ever got, and so you can be running this. Now, if you only have 3 Columbard, you could switch the ratios, so you have 4 Cannoneer, 3 Columbard instead of the other way around. This is just giving you a general guideline. Then we have the 4 Romario grade 1. These can just stay, just as amazing in this format. 4 Dancing Cutlass can also stay, still an amazing card. Then 3 Night Guer, or whatever the hell you want to call it. We cut this immediately because we want to be running Stride Fodders. Now, if you're completely new to Premium, a Stride Fodder is a card that counts as a grade 3 in your hand when used to stride, meaning you don't have to get rid of some valuable grade 3 that you may want to rewrite, and instead you can simply discard this. So we want to get 3 Tommy the Ghosty Brothers. This is another very cheap rare, but if you have a little patience or you're gonna be building this deck only in a month, you can also pick up the reprint from the Revival Collection Volume 2, because this Tommy the Ghosty Brothers will be beautiful foil and full art, so kind of like an SP or an Origin rare. So if you're a big Granblue fan, that's definitely something to look forward to in that Revival collection coming out in April. Then we have 3 Norman the Ghosty. Now this card can stay because he's still pretty good, or you can run Head Start Zombie instead. Again, this is another common that's really good. He lets you mill something from the deck but targeted, so it's not 3 random mills, but instead you choose what you send. This way you can mold your drop zone exactly the way you want it to be. Now as for triggers, these can stay the same way, but I would say replace some critical triggers with 4 Rough Seas Banshee. This is a card that was also part of the trial deck, so even if you bought only 1G trial deck 8, you already have this, but you can also buy the common version off eBay, Troll and Toad, TCG Player, and so forth. It's a very cheap card. This card will basically allow you to soul charge and then draw, but the amazing thing is that this deck can soul blast it out again, so it goes to the drop zone, then you call it back on your stride turns, soul charge it again, and this way you just get those free draws. And so you're already building a free field, meaning you have a big hand, but then you're plussing off that calling on top of that. Finally, for the starter, we have Guiding Zombie in the standard deck, but there's one starter that is much better in premium, and that is Undying Departed Grenache. Grenache gives you 2 counter charge at the end of the turn when it's retired while hollowed. Now, if you don't know what hollow is, that is a keyword, and essentially some Granblue units have it. You can say when a unit is called, you call it hollowed, and then it is forced to retire at the end of the turn, but it gains certain skills by being hollowed. Grenache is one of these cards. When it is retired at the end of your turn, you get 2 counter charge, and that is so free. This deck uses quite some counter blast, but then at the end of the turn it just gets it back. It's such an amazing card. You want to be running this at all costs. Now, so far that has been the main deck, and the only things we've really discussed have been commons and a reprinted Stride Fodder. So far, we're doing very good budget-wise. I would be very shocked if you have to spend more than $5 for these cards so far. Now, we will get to the G-Zone. This is usually where most of the price will come from. So we start off with our most important card, which is 4 Pirate King of Roseate Twilight Night Rose. This Stride will be building full fields for you, whilst also having a crit, so they constantly have to perfect guard this baby. And the best part, right now it's pretty affordable. It was a box stopper promo, so it came for free with boxes, and so right now I think it's like 50 cents to $2 per card. It is a staple, you need 4, so get this while you still can. And honestly, if you have only this, 2 Gouache and some G-Guardians, your deck could be pretty okay already. So I kind of spoiled it already. We also run 2 Tempest Calling Pirate King Gouache. Now this card may be a bit more expensive because I believe it was only a triple R or higher. I think it's $3 a piece, maybe $5 a piece if the price has gone up a bit. Overall still pretty affordable. You only need 2. You're gonna try to use this as your first stride. So when you ride grade 3, your opponent is at grade 3 and you do your very first stride, usually that will be a Gouache because he will dump some of those soul cards into the drop zone, so you have something to start calling already. Then we have 1 Ghosty Great King Obadiah, which is a 50-cent rare, so that's pretty cool to have. You only stride into this when you're having a bad time, but still it's a nice thing to be able to stride into when those times come up. We also run 1 Unfading Ship Immortal Galleon. This card is a bit on the pricier side. It can be $10 to $15. Overall, you won't need it every game. Many games will end before this card, but it is a really good finisher, so you may want to pick one up. And then we get to probably the most expensive card in the deck, Zerov Dragon of Distant Sea Megiddo. You want one. Now, if you don't have the budget, you're still trying to be very budget friendly with this deck, don't buy it. It's that simple, but it is a really strong finisher that Granblue has access to, and so if you can pick it up, you should probably want to pick it up. Now the good news is that it is being reprinted in the Revival collection. God, I love this set so fucking much. So once that set drops, this card should drop in price. We don't yet know how many of these we will find per box. Ideally, it will be 1 Zerov Dragon per box, and these will become very affordable, but we don't know that yet. But overall, it is being reprinted, so it will get even cheaper, regardless of how rare these really end up being. Then we get into G-Guards. Now, G-Guards you can call by by discarding a heal from your hand. So these have some various really handy effects, and so you definitely want to be running some. So first of all, we have a Diabolist of Tombs Negro mode. This is the biggest G-Guard Granblue has, apart from something we will get to later, but so it's a 50-cent rare, again very budget friendly, so you may want to pick it up. Then we have 2 Eclipse Dragon Hulk Deep Corpse Dragon. It mills 2 cards to your drop zone, so that's very valuable, and again, it's a double rare. It's not a very sought after card, so it's pretty affordable as well. I think it'll be like 50 cents or $1. And finally, we have 1 or 2 Diabolist of Solicitation Negro Mora. Again, this card is being reprinted in the Revival collection. Again, I love this set so much. So this is an amazing card for Granblue. It becomes huge. It gets your GB count higher, meaning your Nitros will do more calls. Your Immortal Galleon will be live sooner, and she can also get a perfect guard from the drop zone and place it on your Guardian Circle, and this way you can guard basically anything. So now we have 12 or 13 cards in our G zone, so that's like 4 spots open. Honestly, that is enough. This will give you most of the good plays you want to be making, but of course, if you want to maximize your potential, you can be running 16 G zone spots, so you might as well fill them out. So if you're gonna do that, we could add some more G-Guard options, maybe 2 Negro Songer, that's a strike that's also being reprinted in Revival collection, maybe even 1 more Galleon. That is up to you, but overall, these 12 or 13 cards should be enough to get you going and have a very solid first premium deck. So basically, if you are a standard player, you have a Granblue deck, you watch this video and you follow all the steps, I think you should now have a pretty solid premium deck that you can take to a local and win, go to a BCS and do pretty well. Obviously, you can still optimize, like you can check out my top 8 London BCS Granblue premium deck profile. Damn, that's a mouthful. You can watch some of the choices I made there to really optimize it for certain matchups, but overall, this list gives you a very solid start, and you should be able to start winning some games pretty quickly once you get the hang of piloting this amazing deck. That is all for today. Hope you found this interesting. Do let me know which clan I should be doing next, so let me know in the comments down below, and I will see you soon. Ciao.